So Google has just launched its fresh new Pixel 7 flagship smartphones, and if you've got a fair bit of cash to blow on your next blower, you might want to upgrade to the Pro model, which costs from 849 quid here in the UK. The Pixel 7 Pro runs off the same all-new Tensor chipset that also powers the regular Pixel 7. You got a few upgrades, including a telephoto camera lens and a bigger, sharper display, as well as a bigger battery, of course. But is it pro enough to warrant that sky-high asking price? Well, let's whip it out the box, take you on a full tour, test out the game and the camera tech, all that good stuff. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So first up, what do you actually get in there besides the lovely Pixel 7 Pro? Well, basically this stuff. You've got yourself a Type-C to Type-C USB cable, a Type-A to Type-C USB adapter so you can copy files onto your phone, and a teeny tiny little warranty and regulatory guide. And that's your lot. Once again, no adapter, no case or anything like that bundled in there. Bit of a jip. Okay, so personally, I'm more attracted to the regular Pixel 7 because it's a more compact handset. I'm not really a massive fan of massive blowers like this. It's a 6.7 incher. I've got stubby little fingers, people. My hands just cannot cope. But hey, if you like them big, and I certainly don't judge, then you should be satisfied, certainly. And at 212 grams, the Pixel 7 Pro's got quite a heft to it as well. You'll certainly feel it when it's lodged in your pocket, but not as bad as some of the almighty flagships I've wielded in 2022. As you can see there, that flippin' huge display does practically fill the entire front end of the smartphone, helped by the fact that the screen curves gently around the edges on the left and the right. So you really do have very little bezel action at all, and only a dinky wee selfie orifice stuck away up top. If we slowly flip the 7 Pro around to the back end, you've actually got a shiny aluminium frame separating that front and the back plates of glass. And you've got a super shiny arse end here as well, which unfortunately does pick up a lot of grime and grease as soon as you start handling the bugger. Once this black model catches the light just so, then all those greasy fingerprints do show up rather badly. Doesn't seem to be quite so bad on the snow model, the white model, or you can also grab the Pixel 7 Pro in hazel. So yeah, very familiar design here on the Pixel 7 Pro, strikingly similar to last year's 6 Pro. The only real difference is you've now got a metallic band stretching across that top end which houses the camera lenses. And I really do like how that's completely seamless, just merging in with the frame there. However, it does still stick quite far out from that back end. And these hard edges right here are an absolute nightmare for collecting dust and dirt and grime again. You'll have to really get your fingernails in there, try and get all that crud out every time you pick it out of your pocket. Now, Google has coated the front and back ends of the Pixel 7 Pro in Gorilla Glass Victus. And while that's good news if you drop your smartphone, as it is quite shatter resistant, unfortunately I found on other smartphones with Victus, they do tend to scratch up rather easily. And as there's no pre-installed screen protector here on the 7 Pro, I'd highly recommend slapping one on as soon as possible. And if you want that back end to stay pristine, you might want to get some sort of cover or case on the go. Oh, and this phone is IP68 water and dust resistant, same as the regular Pixel 7 and last year's models as well. So no worries, it can get very damp indeed. You can fully submerge it in water and it should survive absolutely fine. Now, one of the advantages of grabbing yourself a Pixel smartphone over other Androids is you get the latest, freshest Android 13 already stuffed on here. And as well as a handful of OS updates, Google has also promised a minimum of 5 years of security updates for this bad boy, so it shouldn't be obsolete anytime soon. Android 13 hasn't massively evolved over Android 12. You've still got that material design, which I really do like. Changing up your wallpaper is fast and effortless. You can quickly flick through all of your recent papers and then immediately change up the color scheme of the UI to match your wallpaper as well. Not entirely convinced by Google's default wallpaper on here, gotta say, it kind of looks like a crow's arse. They're really going heavy on the feather theme for some reason in this smartphone, but you do also have the Live in Universe wallpapers and a wide variety of other bits you can choose from instead, or just stick your own on. Definitely geeky anime shenanigans for the win. You got the same fantastic privacy tools. All the best bits from Android 12 are still well and truly stuffed inside here. However, finally, at long last with the Pixel 7 series, we now also have a tasty bit of face unlock. As with your fingerprint data, your face data is stored securely on the smartphone. You just got to agree to the usual T's and C's. And then you just got to tilt your head up and down. Oh, my neck. And then as you can see there, you've got the usual require eyes to be open and skip lock screen options. And then this is a handy little alternative to the fingerprint sensor if you've got wet hands or they're a bit grubby or something like that. Just tap the power button. As you can see there, it's a very fast acting face unlock. It can still work out that it's you if you're wearing glasses, and sometimes takes a little longer to work, certainly in more ambient conditions, but generally does the job. And yes, once again, Google has gone with an in-display optical fingerprint sensor here on the Pixel 7 Pro, and I was a little bit concerned because obviously last year's effort was, I think a fair assessment would be quite shit. But touch wood, so far here on the 7 Pro seems absolutely fine, similar to the Pixel 6a from earlier this year. They seem to have sorted it out. Now, I mentioned earlier that your biometrics are stored securely here on the Pixel 7 Pro. Well, that's courtesy of Google's Titan M2 core processor, the same core processor we found stuffed inside of the last generation of Pixels. The security section of the settings is absolutely stuffed with great tools if you are a wee bit concerned about your sensitive bits being exposed, so to speak. And apparently Google is working on a baked-in VPN as well, which would be very intriguing when that lands in a future update. And hold on to your pants, people, because it's time for some sexy specs, starting with the storage. It's your shout of either 128, 256 or 512 gigs of space in this bad boy, but unfortunately no micro SD support as usual. And indeed, that SIM tray only has space for a single solitary lonely little SIM card. There's no double-sided effort here. Although hey, at least you can actually stick a SIM card in it, and you do have support for eSIM as well. Now, the Google Pixel 7 Pro's display is about as premium as it gets. It's a 6.7-inch OLED monster. Your photos, shows, movies, everything will look super crisp and be packed with fine detail thanks to the QHD Plus resolution. That's 3120 by 1440 pixels. Just bear in mind that if you want to take full advantage of that QHD Plus resolution, you will have to manually select it in the display settings because it is stuck to Full HD by default. Because it's an OLED, you've got nice sharp contrast as well, really deep blacks. You've got quite punchy colors here as well, and full HDR streaming support. Viewing angles are wide, and this thing maxes out at 1500 nits at peak brightness levels, which is more than enough to clearly see everything that's going on, even outdoors when it's actually sunny. That teeny wee selfie camera offers barely intrudes on the action when you go full screen enjoying a bit of Netflix or whatever, just bashing some gribblies on the chin in Genshin Impact. And the Pixel 7 Pro boasts an LTPO display as well. It can rise as high as 120Hz refresh as long as the smooth display option is active. And certainly flipping around that Android 13 UI feels nice and nippy and responsive. So great visual quality, but of course Google hasn't forgotten about the audio either. You've got a stereo speaker setup here on the Pixel 7 Pro. Let's test it out with a little bit of this baldy knobber. Here's my in-depth review, and for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do folks subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers. Well, you can certainly never accuse the Google Pixel 7 Pro's stereo speaker setup of being weak. That's for sure. Boost up that volume and you'll practically get a ringing in your ears. It's super loud, not too tinny either. There is a clear imbalance, however, between the output and the top speaker and the bottom speaker. That bottom speaker is definitely pulling most of the weight, while the top speaker just kind of kicks back with an espresso and a newspaper and just kind of chills out. You've got quite a few audio features stuffed away in here, including adaptive sound, which, to be honest, I'm not really entirely convinced about. You've got the usual now playing shenanigans, and you can also play around with the haptics, and I really like the haptics here on the Pixel 7 Pro. They're on the maximum level by default, and you get quite a good little rumble from them, and they're also whisper quiet. You've also got Bluetooth 5.2 streaming support just as well, because there's bugger all headphone jack as per usual, and so far the wireless streaming seems absolutely fine. Now, on the performance side, the new Pixel 7 series smartphones sport Google's latest Tensor G2 chipset as co-crafted with Samsung, and that's backed here on the Pro by 12 gigs of DDR5 RAM. Now, so far, everyday running on the Pixel 7 Pro seems absolutely fine, silky smooth in all regards, but that G2 Tensor chipset can't exactly be described as cutting-edge technology. Unfortunately, it just isn't quite as powerful as some of its biggest rivals out there, and that's perfectly evident when you throw on a really intensive, memory-guzzling, demanding game like Genshin Impact. Throw those graphics settings all the way up to the maximum level and boost up the frame rate to 60 FPS, and you will notice some serious degradation in the quality. While other Android flagships with the latest Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, for instance, play this game absolutely perfectly, even on those maxed out levels, unfortunately I saw several frame rate drops here on the Pixel 7 Pro. And along with those frame rate drops, I also noticed some audio distortion and other little issues creeping in there, which really did detract from the overall experience. I would like to point out that I've only spent 24 hours so far with the Pixel 7 Pro, so these could just be early issues that will be ironed out in the next week or two. When I did my unboxing of the Pixel 6a, for instance, I couldn't even play Genshin Impact on the lower detail settings without seeing some serious judder and issues in that thing as well. But then when I finally did the review over a month later, it was a lot bloody better. And tucked away in the Google section of the settings is the game dashboard as well, which allows you to block all notifications, record the action. You can even get a frame rate counter on screen if you want to see just how juddery that performance really is. Thankfully, no issues with the connectivity so far. You got 5G and Wi-Fi 6E support, so getting online nice and nippy. As for the battery tech, well, so far today I've had the screen on for just over 2 hours, and as you can see there, the battery life has only ticked down to 69%. Those 2 hours included a good bit of Genshin Impact action. Of course, I've also been streaming some music and some podcasts and stuff in the background. So far, touch wood, the 5000 mAh battery seems to be doing its job. Should hopefully get a full day of play out of the Pixel 7 Pro from just a single charge. Now the 30-watt wired charging speed's not exactly super nippy. Hope you're patient because it will take a wee while to get this thing juiced right back up to full. But you do at least have wireless charging support on the Pixel 7 Pro, so that's something. So let's finish with a squint at the camera tech, headed here by a 50 megapixel Octa-PD quad bay camera with optical image stabilization. And if that sounds familiar at all, well, it bloody well should do, because it's the exact same camera sensor as found on the previous Pixel 6 Pro. You also have a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle shooter if you want a more pulled back view of the action, and the Pro has the advantage of having an actual telephoto lens, which you don't find on the regular Pixel 7. And this serves up to 5 times optical zoom with OIS built in, so you don't have to worry about hand jitters. And here's just a small selection of sample shots that I've already snapped with the Google Pixel 7 Pro. I will be getting a lot more on the go in time for my in-depth review, which hopefully shouldn't be taking too long. And Google has packed in a variety of other modes as well, including the fresh new motion mode. This gives you the option of action pan if your subject is moving across the display from one side to the other, or long exposure, which unlike the action pan will give them a blurry effect instead of keeping them crisp. You've also got your usual night sight shenanigans for those low light snaps, bit of portrait action if you just want to add a bokeh style effect in the background. And the Pixel 7 Pro can also exclusively capture macro shots, as that ultra wide angle has built-in autofocus. Just get really close to your subject and it will swap automatically to this mode. And then the final bits are the usual panorama, photosphere and Google Lens. And editing your pics in Google Photos, you can use the unblur tool to sort out any fuzzy ones, although actually it's very early days and it still doesn't entirely work 100% well. Sometimes a little bit terrifying actually. If you'd like to shoot some video with your Google Pixel 7 Pro, well, you can shoot up to 4K resolution footage at 30 or 60 FPS. And again, here's just some simple sample clips that I snapped out and about in my first sort of 24-48 hours with the smartphone, but I will be getting a lot more testing on the go, boy howdy. And there's a cinematic video mode now as well, which has a bokeh style effect in the background, but this does bulk up seemingly if your subject moves or turns unexpectedly. And then last up, that front firing lens is a 10.8 megapixel selfie shooter with fixed focus. You can choose between standard view and slightly more pulled back view. Oh my god, such a dramatic difference. And here's pictures of my very impressed look and face. Again, just for the first sort of couple of days. I'll try and shoot some that are a bit less crap for the actual review. And here I am shooting some 4K resolution video using the front facing camera in quite an ambient environment. Still doing a decent job, not too much noise creeping in there, and respectable audio pickup too. And that right there, in a lovely little nutshell, is the fresh new Google Pixel 7 Pro. So as you can see, not exactly much of an evolution at all from the previous generation. Very familiar looking camera tech, slight boost to that chipset, though still the early days gaming performance is less than stellar. But of course my sim is lodged in there. I will be using the Pixel 7 Pro as my full-time smartphone for my in-depth review. Hopefully not too long on that, so it'd be great to hear your thoughts down in the comments below so far. I will be unboxing the Pixel 7 and comparing both of these blows to the Pixel 6a, so check out those videos if you haven't done already. And please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech. Cheers everyone, love you!